Everybody, St. Paul here. Welcome to episode 52 of Music on the Run. It's Christmas tree day today with the family. Hey, my guest coming up, none other than the legendary Eric Leeds on Music on the Run. Whew. Before we get started here, do me a favor. Wherever you got this podcast, make sure you subscribe, give us a rating, and if you have time and like what you're hearing, make sure you write a review. It really helps us get the word out so we can have a lot more people coming to the party. Hey everybody, I'm St. Paul Peterson. Prince gave me that nickname, and I've been lucky enough to tour with people like the Steve Miller Band, Kenny Loggins, Peter Frampton, Donny Osmond, to name a few. And when I'm not playing music, I love to run. And this is a podcast about how we stay healthy on the road, physically, mentally, and with our families. Welcome to Music on the Run. Hey everybody, St. Paul here. Welcome to episode 52 of Music on the Run. Man, have we got a great episode that's coming up here, but I do want to say thank you to all of you who have been listening and watching. This is, like I said, episode 52. We're just about to enter our third season of Music on the Run, and we couldn't do it without you. And I want to especially thank our patrons. You can go there and financially support the podcast, www.patreon.com/Music on the Run podcast. There's a few different levels there. Go check it out. There's some cool perks. But I want to thank all of those guys and all of you who've been keeping us alive here financially. We appreciate your contributions to Music on the Run podcast. Without further ado, this young man that I'm about to interview, I've known for over 35 years. We were in a group called The Family together, and he's gone on to do so many incredible things. He's a Grammy Award winner, a train lover, and one of my dearest friends on the planet. Please welcome Mr. Eric Leeds to the show.
I have a question.
Yes, what's the question?
You wait until episode 52 before you have me?
Hey, you technically were on with F Deluxe before.
That's right, I was. Yes.
You were.
Of course.
You came over and gave your Thanksgiving cookies to me, as usual.
Bring you cookies.
How many years have you been giving me cookies?
Every year I give you cookies.
Every year he delivers.
And they're new cookies every year.
Oh, they aren't the...
They aren't just...
They're not the old ones.
Yeah.
They were very good. They were a hit.
They were a hit.
There's hardly any left. And
I wish my music was as much a hit.
Hey, we got new music to talk about. We're going to wait a minute before we do that. But you and I have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And you remember more about my early life than I do, which is a very, very strange proposition.
Well,
and sometimes I have to call you and go, Eric, what was I doing when I was 21 years old?
21 years old, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't want to know.
Yes, sometimes I don't want to remember. Either you or me, but whatever, yeah.
30,000-foot view, Eric and I were in a group called The Family together back in the Prince camp, and that was about 1985?
Well, yeah, we started working on the album in 84.
I had no idea who you were. Here's the situation. I'm getting out of a group called Morris Day and the Time. We had just made Purple Morris decides to leave.
Y'all ran out of time.
He ran out of time. Yeah. He leaves the band. Prince has us in a semicircle at this warehouse. Says, you've seen the people who have left. I'm going to form a new band. And he pointed at me and said, you're going to be the new lead singer. At least that's the way I remembered it. Anyway, I had not met you yet.
And he didn't have his glasses on either.
He did. He was like, oh, shoot, I pointed at the wrong person. You weren't in that conversation, though.
No.
So,
no.
How the heck did you come into the...
That's why I had been probably... You're pointing at him?
Yeah.
Hey. No.
How did you get into the Prince camp? I don't even know the connection.
Nepotism.
At its finest.
At its finest. Well, I mean,
I knew your brother.
Yeah. My brother, Alan, was Prince's road manager, office manager, chief of staff, whatever,
Right.
And for whatever reason, this was the first project that Prince thought about using a saxophone. And I guess he had mentioned that to Alan just, as a comment, just offhand. And Alan said to him, do you have anyone, probably asked him if he had anyone specifically in mind at that time, and apparently Prince did not. So Alan said, well, let me play you some stuff. My brother's a saxophone player. Prince heard. I, to this day, don't know specifically what Alan might have played for Prince. I mean, I had had a career in music 10, 12 years already. I was, grew up in Pittsburgh, but I was living in Atlanta at the time.
Right.
And
gigging all the time.
Well, gigging a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was gigging all the time in Pittsburgh. I
Okay.
left Pittsburgh. I was kind of burned out by the bar band scene and went to Atlanta just to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was gigging, but I mean, nothing of any great import or, nothing significant. Just some bar band gigs around Atlanta, trying to really decide what I wanted to do next.
Right.
Kind of betwixt in between. And Alan called and said, hey, I played this stuff for Prince, whatever it was, maybe some stuff from one of my old bands or something that maybe Alan played for him. Prince was suitably impressed, whatever that means. He told Alan, call your brother and ask him if he wants to come up to Minneapolis and record. Because Prince already had music for the project done. He had tracks done.
Well, wait a minute. You, the fans already know this, but you weren't particularly fond of Prince. And did you even know who he was at that particular point in time?
Yeah, I knew who he was.
Simply
mainly
because of your brother.
Yeah, because Alan had been working for him
Yeah.
for over a year now.
Right.
Probably the first piece of music of Prince's that I could put his name to was the song Controversy. And I wasn't impressed. I mean, I didn't hate it.
Right.
But it was not something that it was just not the kind of music that I listened to. That was really kind of
What were you into? at
Well,
that
I mean,
point?
my primary aspiration in music was always jazz. But I was also, the R&B, the pop music that I was into was strictly hardcore R&B and funk.
Such as?
Well, I mean, starting out particularly with Ray Charles and James Brown,
Right.
because I'm old. I grew up in the 60s, all right? So,
Right.
So,
I'll never let you forget that either.
And, I mean, before Alan worked for Prince, Alan worked for James Brown in the late 60s, early 70s. And I grew up around James Brown. I knew James Brown since I was like 12 years old.
Wait a minute. You grew up around James Brown.
Yeah.
And your brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is what you were weaned on. So you loved James Brown.
Oh yeah, yeah. As far as aside from the primary jazz artists like Miles Davis, John Coltrane,
Yeah.
Wayne Shorter, cats like that, James Brown was the other. There was no music in the world that I loved more.
What
than
was
James
the draw
Brown's.
to James? What did you dig about James?
Just the groove.
Okay.
I mean, as much as anything else.
The horn section? I mean,
Everything.
Maceo,
Everything. I mean, just one of the greatest bands in the history of music. And he was, by the mid-'60s, he was starting to create this music that we now refer to as funk.
Right.
I mean, James Brown was, and I had this wonderful opportunity. I was about, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I was around him and that band while that music was being created. I mean, they would, we were living in...
You were in Pittsburgh then, right?
Well, I was in Pittsburgh. We had
Okay.
actually, my family lived in Richmond, Virginia for several years before that. And that's where Alan began his career in radio.
Right.
And that's where he met so many of the R&B. He was a DJ at the Black Radio, R&B radio station in Richmond, Virginia. And he ended up being a promoter.
Right.
He knew everybody. He knew Otis Redding. He knew Curtis Mayfield. He knew The Temptations. He
And
knew
this
Joe
is a
Tex.
young guy.
He was 17, 18 years old.
It's unbelievable. He's
Yeah.
another interview I got to do.
Well, yeah.
I should have done the Leeds
Well,
brothers versus the Peterson brothers. That's
Well,
coming. That's coming. Season 4.5.
You don't want us both at the same time, believe me.
Can't get a word in edgewise.
No, that's overkill.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So having the opportunity to be around that, but James Brown was the guy
Right.
more than anything else. I mean, just what he was creating, and just having that opportunity to be around that and just witness that, because he would come through town. By the time we were in Pittsburgh, a couple times a year or whatever, and by the late '60s, Alan was working for him. So I mean, whenever I was going to see James Brown, I'm backstage most of the time, and I'm hanging with James Brown in his dressing room as the show is going on and after the show. And just, James, I've got memories of being in a dressing room with James Brown, and he would be playing for me his next record that maybe he had just recorded a couple
playing
weeks.
it for a 12-year-old kid. Hey, kid, how about you think of this?
I'm 14, 15 years old
I'm
growing
not
up.
feeling it, James.
Well, really, that's, that's what it was like. And being able to have those conversations with him. So now, I mean, as a musician, my primary aspiration was to be a jazz musician. But,
and who was your guy?
well, the first guy who I fell in love with on the saxophone was a guy named David Newman, who's known as Fathead Newman. Fathead Newman.
Yeah,
He was the primary tenor saxophone soloist for Ray Charles. Late 50s, early 60s, through the absolute peak of Ray Charles's career. Fathead, went on, did his own albums, of course, in the years. But he was probably my absolute first love on the horn. Cannonball Adderley was also one of probably one of the two or three greatest jazz alto saxophone players. He was also a huge hero of mine.
So was your brother giving you these records, or was this
My introduction to all of this music was because of my brother.
Wow.
Oh yeah. For whatever reason, when Alan was about 7, 8, 9 years old, he fell in love with rock and roll, but primarily R&B. So when Alan was like 10 years old, and he's 5 years older than me, so Alan's 10, 11 years old. When Alan was 10 or 11 years old, he wasn't subscribing to like model magazines or Boys Life magazine. He was subscribing to all the music industry trade papers. God. Billboard, Cashbox, Record
That's
World,
unbelievable.
and reading them cover to cover almost every week. So my introduction to the music was because of him. Now I'm 5 or 6 years old. I like, I want to be what my big brother is into.
Of course,
Yeah,
naturally.
But as the years went on, I decided, I started to have my own distinct favorites, but he was into R&B. He's the one who brought home the first Ray Charles record, which was my introduction into that music. And then he was starting to get into jazz, so I got into all of that.
Because your dad was a classical music lover, right?
Yes, yeah. My dad loved classical symphonic music. He loved show music. He loved show tunes.
Okay.
But he also liked certain jazz artists. He loved big bands. Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Stan Getz, guys like that.
Right.
So
that was his era.
Yeah.
That was his pop music.
Yeah. And so I mean, I was so fortunate and blessed, because I know a lot of you were fortunate to grow up in a family of musicians, so it was never an issue. But I've got friends of mine, who are fabulous musicians today, guys that I grew up with, whose parents were like, when are you going to get a real job?
Oh, yeah. I've
that whole
interviewed
thing.
a lot of those guys.
Exactly. I was blessed that my parents only wanted me to succeed in what I wanted to do.
Isn't that something, man?
Yeah, my dad was a businessman. He was a retail merchant, CEO of huge department stores and everything. So he was a businessman.
Right.
But he realized that, and he would have loved it if I had said, "Papa, I want to follow, go into business." He would have loved that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Or
that's
anything
what any
else.
father.
Yeah. Or
Let
a
me
lawyer.
show you the ropes, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Or if I wanted to be a lawyer or something like that. But knowing that I was falling in love with this music, and by the time I was probably in high school, that I really made a decision that this is what I wanted to pursue as a career.
Yeah.
He was basically all, and he says, he said, "You're going to go to school?" I said, "Yeah, I want to go to school, do it right." And
tell these guys the story of you going and getting your saxophone with your dad in New York.
Oh, well, that was... I had my first saxophone that I played for several years was actually an alto saxophone. I wanted to be a tenor man, but the tenor was too big for me when I was a little kid. I could barely lift the damn thing. So I switched to alto and played alto, which is a smaller horn. But after having played alto for maybe 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, I had fallen in love with the baritone saxophone, which of course is huge, big
Right.
horn. And I had an uncle in New York who was a saxophone player, who had played with Perry Como's orchestra. If you don't know Perry Como is, sorry, but I mean,
Look him up.
I mean,
Great crooner of the 30s, 40s.
and into the 50s and even 60s. He had an NBC variety show from the mid 50s to the early 60s that was one of the, probably top rated weekly shows. And my uncle was in the orchestra, the Mitchell Ayers Orchestra, which was Perry Como's orchestra. So anyway, I called my uncle in New York and asked him, because he was hooked up with all the music stores, so I could get a discount or get a better price because
Right.
my uncle, was hooked up.
He'd say the word, and you'd get a few percentage off or
I
whatever.
told my uncle, now I'm a junior in high school, and I called my uncle and I said, I am ready to buy a baritone saxophone.
With your own money.
With my own money, I'd saved my little allowance over the years. This is...
Yeah, because your dad could have bought that for you, but you...
Yeah. But, I wanted... This is something I wanted to do
For
myself.
yourself.
Yeah. So I had enough money that I thought, I could be ready. And I knew what I wanted. I wanted a Selmer Mark VI, which was the top pro saxophone at the time.
For a junior in high school.
For junior high school. So my uncle called back a few days later, and he said there was a music store in New York at the time, Ponte's Music, long gone, but that was one of the meccas for horn and woodwind players in New York. He said, I called Charles Ponte, who he knew, and said, they have one in stock, and this is the price that I can get you for it. And I was like, cool.
Right.
I got it covered. My dad was actually in New York, going to New York the next week on business. And he said, why don't we do this? I'll stay over the weekend. I'll fly you up on a Saturday morning. We'll go look at the horn. If you want it, you'll buy it. That's it.
Ship it home.
Yeah, ship it home. Cool. So Saturday morning came. My dad stayed over. I flew up the next morning. He picked me up at the airport. We went, had lunch, and I played this brand new baritone that I just immediately fell in love with, and was, literally 10 minutes. Cool. Wrap it up. Here's where, Mr. Ponte shows me another horn.
Right.
Yeah. That was also made by Selmer, but it was a secondhand horn. It was an older horn. And I looked at the thing and I said, well, that horn looks used. And he said, well, it is. And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Ponte, I have this brand new horn that I'm ready to buy. Why are you showing me this used horn? And he just said, play it. That's all he said. So I played the other horn. Short story, the other horn was a magnificent horn that had been custom built, apparently, for a particular client, maybe years. I really don't know much of the history beyond that. But it was a fabulous horn. And that's when I bought. And today, that is the baritone that I have.
You still own that?
Still own that horn.
That's the one that's appeared on all the records.
Yeah. And anyone that...
And you bought it when you were 17? Not even 17?
17, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I just turned 17, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Now, of course, my dad, God bless him, as soon as, he was going to write a check, and then I was going to then, I'd reimburse my dad when we got home. And he said to me, don't worry about it. Now, in any other circumstance, maybe I would have said, okay, Dad, cool.
Dad.
That's it,
Yeah.
But I had the money for this, and this is something that I had been looking forward for years to be able, and this was, I was extraordinarily blessed to grow up in a family that I wanted for nothing.
Right.
I mean, extremely fortunate beyond that. But I wanted, so this is really one of my first opportunities to purchase something of value and significance, because this was something that was not only represented something that I could buy, but this was what I was going to do to pursue my career with. So I needed to have ownership of this.
Was that a pinnacle moment for you, even in your decision making, that I'm definitely doing this for a living?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty
so that
much.
was it. You were like, this is on me, Dad.
Yeah. And it was like, when I got home, I gave him the money for that, and that's, that was...
That's big.
Yeah.
It is.
No, I mean, that hardly pays him back for all of the...
Oh, sure.
But
that's parental stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, they bought me my first alto,
right?
So, which I still have today. I still have that horn.
I still have my alto. I don't play well though. I put it away, and it's in mothballs for a reason.
My alto was in mothballs too because I play tenor and baritone. I'm not an alto player, but I still have it.
So you were growing up with your brother. How do you become the musician, and he becomes the music lover?
Well, that's interesting because Alan actually, when he was in, I think, 5th or 6th grade, he wanted to be in the elementary school band and be a drummer.
Okay.
But immediately he just wanted to be able to have a drum kit and play.
Right.
And the music teacher gave him 2 drumsticks and a little practice pad. And Alan basically said, well, where's the drum kit?
Right.
And he said, no, this is all you get. And he said, well, the hell with that. So that was the end of Alan's music career.
Oh, my.
Yeah. But the funny thing is Alan probably has a musical sensibility that is greater than many, if not most, musicians that I know. Is his ability to understand music from the perspective of almost being a musician. And do
you think that's because of your influence on him? Obviously, he has the influence on you, but musically, you must have an influence on him.
Maybe
you must.
But I think he was going to be that anyway. Yeah, I think just I
probably didn't Hoyt to have you as a brother.
Well, maybe not. But I mean the reality is that if my brother had not been into the music to the degree that he was, I don't know that I would have been.
You might have been that salesman.
Yeah, might have gone in or become a lawyer
or whatever
else. Yeah, or just become a train engineer, which was the only other thing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is it with you and trains, by the way?
I really don't know.
Where did that start?
Well, apparently, I do know that my grandfather, on my mother's side, did have an interest in railroads, not to the degree that I did. And maybe it was, I don't know. I really don't know.
But your fascination is far beyond. It's a passion.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm.
The guy's house.
Yeah.
Is full of music books, LPs, tapes, magazines about trains.
Yeah.
And books about trains.
Yeah. And baseball.
Oh,
I mean, those.
Excuse me. And baseball.
Music, baseball, and trains. Yeah. That pretty much.
That's an interesting combination there, Mr. Leeds.
I suppose it is.
It is.
Anyway.
All right. Back to your family growing up. You're following around your brother. He's promoting. He's with James Brown.
Yeah.
You move on. You've got your horn. You graduate. You go to college.
Went to Duquesne University School of Music in Pittsburgh. I didn't graduate. I went full time for 2 years.
How did that go over?
Well, not bad.
Really?
Yeah, because I was in the music education degree in order to get a degree to become a music teacher, which wasn't what I wanted to do that.
No.
But the reason
that was a fallback?
It could have been.
Right.
But the reason I actually went into that degree program at Duquesne University was it enabled me to take the classes that I wanted to take that I wouldn't have had the ability to take if I was, say, in the other degree program, which was a conservatory. I wanted to, because I wanted to write and arrange beside being just a player. And if you're in the education degree program, you're in the classes, the brass methods class. I mean, the junior year, the sophomore year, I was playing trumpet for a semester. And another semester, I have 3 weeks of playing trombone, 3 weeks of playing French horn, tuba, euphonium, and all of those instruments.
Things you learned 35 years after meeting
Well,
someone.
in Woodwin's class, I mean, obviously, I already played clarinet a little bit, so that was, but I was learning to play bassoon, oboe, flute, all of those. Now, the reason that you have those classes, because if you are going to be a music teacher in, say, an elementary school or high school, you have to have at least some basic knowledge of the instruments, because you're maybe the only teacher for like a kid that's just starting out. So even if you're not really proficient on the instrument, you have to be able to show them the basic fingering system and have a basic idea of of how to produce a sound. I was interested in it because I wanted to have some sort of understanding of what the instrument could maybe do or not do that would maybe help me as a writer and an arranger. And I was just fascinated. It was just so much fun for me, even though I'm a saxophone player, to be carrying around a trumpet for a few months.
Did you ever play any of that stuff on a gig?
No.
Okay.
No.
You weren't that brave. No. Or you weren't that good.
No. All of that. All of the above. Yeah. Flute became, one of my instruments, one of my doubles or whatever. I'm hardly what I would call a real proficient flute player, but I can use the instrument to the degree that I use it, and because I'm using flute in circumstances that I'm creating, I know what I can do and what I can't do with the instrument.
So you're right for whatever your ability is.
Exactly.
I got you.
Exactly.
Right.
The same way, basically, at the same time, when you're in a music school, and I suppose it's probably this way for most music schools, but it was at Duquesne University. My major instrument was saxophone. My minor instrument, if your major instrument is anything other than piano, your minor instrument has to be piano.
Smart.
Yeah.
But tell these guys why.
Well,
in your opinion, why?
Basically because the piano is probably the easiest way by which you can understand harmony and theory and sight reading and all of that. And basically saying that the most basic instrument, particularly in classical music or just basic music, learn how to play piano. The first thing I would tell anybody that wants to become a musician, regardless of what their instrument of choice is, learn some piano, just to be able to sit and understand.
It's a communication device.
Yes.
It is.
All of the writing that I have done in my career, and arranging everything, I do at the piano. Even when I'm writing a song that might have, a melody that I know I'm going to be playing on saxophone, 9 times out of 10, whatever I create at the piano. And only then do I then pick up the horns and will this work on the horn?
Other times when it's like, no.
Yeah, or make those adjustments. But as far as, it's just, I don't know. I mean, now, basically, if I had to do it all over again as a musician, piano would be my major instrument.
No kidding.
Yeah, I really would love.
You play great piano, man. You do.
Well,
You've got great ideas. Now, look, we've done a whole record together, and don't let him lie to you. He plays great piano.
Well, I don't have pianistic technique. I don't have the hand independence for, counterpoint and all of that stuff.
But you comp really well.
Yeah, within the basic, limitations of the music. Once again, if I'm doing something or writing something that I know I can play piano on, it's because I know this is what I can do. Versus somebody like your brother, well, even your brother, obviously, Ricky Peterson, who is, that's what I would really love to be.
Me too.
I've
always wanted to be my brother.
Yeah, I mean, other than those saxophone players, trumpet players, and horn players that they're my heroes, but so many of my heroes are pianists, or keyboard players. Miles plays some keyboard, but Joe Zawinul, who was the co-leader of Weather Report, Keith Jarrett is probably one of my absolute favorite musicians across the board. Chick Corea, of course, Herbie Hancock, Bill Evans, Wynton Kelly. I mean, all of these guys were piano players.
Right.
For me, my ability to create music or conceive and conceptualize music comes from the harmony pretty much before anything else. And because the piano is a harmonic instrument, everything that I can kind of conceive of comes from that.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons that I think we have been, at least musically, in my way of thinking, so successful, is your harmonic vocabulary and mine seem to really work well together.
They do.
The thing is that we expand each other. We have, I think, a core area where we're kind of at a home base.
Well, you're schooled and I'm not. Let's just put it out there.
But that's what makes it so fascinating for me, because you're not schooled, but if I didn't know better, I would say you were.
That's Mom's fault.
Well,
Ricky's fault and Billy's fault and Patty's fault.
Absolutely.
And Linda's fault.
But beyond that core kind of central, position where we know where we can build from, you're going to go in a completely different direction than when I'm going to go.
And that complements, actually.
Absolutely, because
we found that out.
One of the most wonderful things about making music for me is if I have an idea or a particular, whether it's a particular song or just a particular idea about how to conceive of something musically, I've done a lot of music on, just on my own, previous albums where I'm basically the only one in there who's making the final decisions and production decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. And I'm certainly proud and very satisfied with a lot. But when you have somebody that you're constantly answering to, basically, which is what we do with each other with our LP project, which we'll, get into.
What LP project?
Well, that
this
one right
LP
there.
project?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
No words.
No words.
Noise.
So
I like this.
I can come up with an idea and just throw it out there, and you can come in something that complements that, and I'll sit and I say, well, that's exactly what I would have done, except I didn't. You
and
did.
vice versa.
Yeah, you did. And it's like, wow, Paul did exactly what I wanted to do with it, but I didn't know that until you showed me. It was basically like, Eric, this is exactly what you want to do with this.
I don't know if it was quite that confident, but
that's,
it worked.
Yeah, but that's the way it works.
So you've gone through, you bought your saxophone, you've toured, you lived in Pittsburgh, you moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Let's pick up the story again. Your brother calls you.
He calls me and says, okay,
and
Prince.
Come on to Minneapolis.
Yeah. And he says.
We're back in 1984 now.
Yeah, this is 84.
We're going to take a little break from the interview right now because I want to tell you about a couple of really cool things. First of all, we're having so much fun with our weekly 1-minute funk jams called Funk Friday. We've had so many world-class musicians on Funk Friday, including members of the Steve Miller Band, Fleetwood Mac, Daryl Hall and John Oates, Earth, Wind & Fire, just to name a few. You can check that out on all of our social media, but you can also see it on our YouTube channel. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our members who have supported us on Patreon. Don't know what Patreon is? Go to www.patreon.com/Music on the Run podcast, and there you'll get all sorts of information on how you can financially help us produce this podcast. There are all kinds of incentives listed there on the website, and there are many different levels on how you can become involved. We could not put on this podcast without our patrons. All right, let's get back to the interview.
Let's pick up the story again. Your brother calls you.
He calls me and says, okay,
and
Prince.
Come on to Minneapolis.
Yeah. And he says.
We're back in 1984 now.
Yeah, this is 84.
Okay.
Alan explained what had happened, that Prince's, that the time was breaking, or that he was putting this new band together, the project he was going to call The Family. I assume at that time he had already put a name. Had he told you when he said, you're going to be the lead singer, did he at that point say it's going to be called The Family? Do you recall?
Not my recollection.
Okay.
But then it was a need-to-know basis at that point in time for me.
Well, the thing is, I don't recall specifically whether there was a name for the project yet when I came up. Maybe there was.
Did he send you a cassette to learn something or nothing?
No,
okay.
no. I in fact, this is what happened. Now, the thing was, Alan, it took Alan a few weeks to even convince me that this is something I should do.
Oh, that's right, because you weren't particularly fond of
Prince. I liked, I didn't care much for controversy. I'd heard a few other things. 1999, I liked the song 1999. I bought the album 1999 and listened to it maybe once or twice, and really there wasn't anything else on that album that particularly
let me
spoke
ask
to
you
me.
something. Does the reason you didn't like him because you saw him being a James Brown-esque artist, and you were like, I already dealt with James Brown. I already knew James Brown, and he ain't James Brown.
Well, that might have been part of it subliminally. The fact is that it was hardcore funk, George Clinton, Bootsy Collins. That's, which was the next step from James Brown.
Right.
So through the 70s and all of that, the thing is that while Prince certainly has the funk side of him.
Oh, yeah.
He also has a very hardcore, more of a rock and roll and pop music side of him.
That's very true.
Because he was an extremely eclectic musician.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's not the music I listen to. So I would listen to some of that stuff and say, well, it's funky, but it ain't really that.
It ain't George.
It ain't George. Yeah, I mean, really, it was like I was so just focused.
Isn't that funny?
If basically if it wasn't George Clinton or Bootsy or Kid Creole and the Coconuts, which is the other band that I was like falling in love with at that point, and the Isley Brothers, Still and Cast like that, it was like that. It's too pop. It's just too.
So he convinced you.
Well,
and here you come.
Well, basically, there's an old joke about. No,
here we go.
Well, okay. Like I say, I'm in Atlanta, but I'm really not doing much. Yeah. And I was really at a point in my career where, while jazz was what I really wanted to do, I did not feel that I possessed the necessary skill set, or at least on the level that would have enabled me to say, okay, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to dive into the cesspool of jazz musicians in New York, and that's where I'm going to find fame and fortune. I was not confident in my ability to have been able to be successful at that point in time.
Interesting.
Yeah. While I've done many jazz gigs, but most of my gigs were funk and R&B gigs in the bands that I had, because that's how I could earn a living.
So you switched genres. You still love jazz, but you're making a living playing funk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I was overqualified as a saxophone player from what was necessary for me to play funk music, and I was still a little underqualified for playing the jazz to the level that I thought was going to be necessary. Also, my real aspiration was always to just be primarily a band leader. And it's a little difficult to come out and say I'm a band leader until you've got kind of like a resume.
Right. Well, you weren't taking names.
Well, yeah, but there was a local band, and I was a band leader. But I mean, if you're going to go to New York, you don't go to New York and just say, "Here I am, I'm a band leader." Basically, yeah.
You are, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, right. So I really was at a point in time now, playing bar bands all during the years when I was in my 20s, and you're really just making enough to barely pay my rent at the end of the month. I can pay my bills, and if I got $50 in my bank account, I'm lucky.
You're paying your dues.
Yeah, and that's okay. But when you're now in your early 30s, which I was, it's like, I actually want to have a lifestyle.
Yeah,
that's a little more solid than that.
Mm-hmm.
And for what I'm capable and interested in music, am I ever going to be able to have that, being the musician that I am right now? And the answer to me was, I don't think so.
Crossroads, baby.
Yeah. So I was really, it was the first time in my life, that I'm thinking maybe music is something I just need to go on to try to do something else. Oh. It was that, Now, the only problem was I had no skill or background or experience in any other idea. So anyway, so the thing is, so here comes Alan calling me. So I'm just really in Atlanta, just gigging, just spinning my wheels,
right.
Getting, So Alan calls me and said, okay, Prince invited you to come up to do a recording session. My basic idea was, well, there's nothing about really Prince other than a few songs of his that I've heard that I like. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing about it that said, oh my God, this is going to be my salvation. And oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. I'm going to be able to play music with Prince. That didn't even enter the conversation. So the joke I'm talking about is that there's an old joke about a flood. The 500-year flood is coming into a community. So all the authorities are warning the community, evacuate now, because by this time tomorrow, you're all going to be dead if you don't, evacuate.
Right.
So they get everybody out of the community except one guy who says, no, I'm going to be okay. The Lord is going to look after me, and I'll be fine. So they said, okay. The water starts to, rains come, the water starts to rise. They come back, now they're in a canoe. Because this guy, the water is up to the second level of this guy's house. He's hanging out the second story window, and they got a canoe. And they said, jump in the boat now and we'll still take care of you. He said, no, I'm fine. God is going to look after me. Take care of everyone else. I'll be fine. They come back 5 hours later. He's now on the roof of his house. The water's up to there. They got a helicopter above him with a bullhorn. We're going to send you down a rope. Grab the rope. This is your last chance. And he looks up and says, I'm fine. Lord will look after me. Helicopter says, okay. 2 days later, the guy's now at the pearly gates. And he's pissed because he looked at God, and says, I thought you were going to take care of me. And God looks at him and says, I sent you a car. I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. What do you want from me?
What do you want for nothing?
That's basically what my brother's doing. For 2 weeks, he's on the phone sending me a car, sending me a boat, sending me a helicopter, and I'm saying, I just don't know if this guy, what is this going to be about? Finally, it dawned on me, something? It's a gig.
Yep.
I'm going to go to Minneapolis. I'm going to do a recording session with this guy. He'll put some money in my pocket, and that might be the end of it.
Right.
You
had no idea what to expect.
No illusions, no expectations about anything.
It was a gig.
Yeah. So, and however, now Alan was telling me, well, he really, really loves the way you play on what I play from. Now, I don't know if that was Alan just trying to pump me up. So, and even if Prince really was digging whatever it was that he had heard of me on recordings or whatever Alan would play for him, that still doesn't necessarily guarantee that once you get in the recording studio, that it works. Right. Maybe I could have come in there and played the music really well as far as my perspective, and maybe Prince, he has every right to say to me, he said, Eric, I appreciate you coming, it's really cool, but I'm not sure this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But
that didn't happen.
Fortunately, it didn't. Now, on the other hand, if I had done the session and really thought, boy, this is some boring ass shit, this is just, take a paycheck and just go home, that might have been the end of it. Fortunately, I enjoyed it. More importantly, he
enjoyed it.
He enjoyed it.
Right.
But even at that, it was like we did 4 songs that were on the family album. As far as I know, he puts a check in my pocket and said, oh, this was worth it for me to come up.
Right.
Good
time was had by all. He's happy,
yes.
You're happy,
now,
you go home.
I'm hanging around with Alan. I hadn't seen Alan for like a year. So I'm saying, I'm going to hang with Alan, just have some fun. My mother, coincidentally, was from St. Paul. So I have cousins and an aunt and uncle that lived in Twin Cities that I hadn't seen in years. So I'm saying, that was really as much the reason that I came up as anything else. I said, they're going to fly me up. I'll get spend some time with Alan and his girlfriend, now his wife, Gwen. I'll see my aunt and uncle, some cousins I haven't seen. I'm going to have a great time. And, it's going to pay for me because I'm going to do this session. And that really was the whole extent of my thought process.
Right.
So I'm hanging in town. A week later, Alan said Prince wanted to know if you were still in town. I said, well, obviously I am. He said, he's got another song for you. Don't want to
Which
come
was?
You
remember?
Nothing compares to you. As a matter of fact. Yeah.
Of course, I'm telling you, he knows everything. He remembers everything.
Well, I also wrote things down.
Did you?
Yes.
You journaled?
Yes. Yeah. Now, mainly, just not only for my own ego, I will document my own life. No one else is going to.
I know why you document it.
Well, another one is said, this is when I did that session. Did I get paid? Yes, I got paid.
Yep.
Everything is still business.
Hey, that's a businessman, though.
So
nothing wrong with that.
So anyways, so we did those, and then I hung around for a couple more weeks. We did one other song one evening, Feline.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I went back to Atlanta.
For how long?
Well, I was there for the rest of the summer.
Okay.
Because this was in July of, now you gotta understand, Purple Rain was just coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The first single, When Doves Cry, had just come out.
Right.
The premiere for the movie was a few weeks after we did these sessions. So I was back home in Atlanta. Prince is now out in LA with the, and they're getting ready to gear up for what was going to be the Purple Rain tour.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got bigger fish to fry. He's ready to all of a sudden enter into the period of his career that is going to be unlike anything he had ever experienced.
Right.
Before or since, really.
Right.
My basic attitude is to, okay, here's this project that I've done these recording sessions for, but I guess I was under the understanding, I don't know if you were at that point, that the plan was that this album was not going to be released until the next year. So we're doing this recording for it in like the summer of '84, but it was my understanding that the earliest this album was going to be released was sometime in 1985. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, that's 6, 7, 8 months from now. That gives a lot of time for Prince to just either lose interest in this or just, say, oh, the hell with that, I'll get around to that, whatever. So I had no, feelings that any of this was guaranteed. So I did a bunch of recording sessions. I got home, I went to Atlanta, and it was basically whatever happens next happens next. Yeah. So I think I came back up here in October, I think it was, while they were
on a break, right?
They were in production rehearsals for the tour, because I think their tour was starting the next month. And I just came up for a few days to hang with Alan and ended up doing another session with Prince, because it was, In fact, that's when I first met Susanna, because I had not met her yet.
Interesting.
Yeah. And met you when, the previous summer, but only for like...
In passing, really.
In passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were just coming in the studio starting to do your vocal tracks on it.
With David and Jellybean mostly, and
right.
Prince
yeah.
occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah, because the tracks that when I was, all the recording that I had done up to that point on the tracks, it was Prince's scratch vocal.
Sure. That would be delivered to this house, and I would learn them in this basement.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the nature of my relationship with Prince, and then subsequently becoming a member of his band later, was not predicated on my feeling that, oh my God, I love this music more than anything in the world. I can think of no other musician. It was like, this is a gig, and realizing, okay, the way this is progressing and my involvement, this is going to be a good place for me to be.
Right.
For my career or for whatever. And the fact that regardless, all the years that I worked with Prince, and because I played an instrument that he didn't play, which gave me the opportunity to, over the years.
He let you be you, which is uncanny. No, he did.
Certainly to a greater degree, only because he could not take my instrument from me and say, this is how to do this.
Right.
And I don't care how great the musician, I don't care if it was Wendy Melvoin, who has, as a guitar player, has aspects of playing the guitar, harmonic vocabulary that Prince never had, Sure. Other aspects that Lisa had, the keyboard player that Matt Fink was, and all the musicians that he may have had in his bands over the years. But he still had the ability to take all those instruments and say, no, for this song, I need you to do this. And here it is, and then give it back to him. He could not do that with me or with any of the other horn players. My section mate, Matt Bliston,
right.
or Mike Nelson and the Hornheads that played with him years later, and even Maceo Parker. I mean, I was, played with him years later. I was going to tell Maceo, So certainly it gave me an opportunity to have more of an individual voice in his music.
Boy, did you ever.
Well, fortunately, for whatever reason, whatever it was about who I am as a musician already was as a saxophone player. Well, he did. Well, he did.
It.
No, he did.
But you're so okay.
But once again, there's no guarantee that I mean, he could have just said, "All I need you to do, and you're great for do horn parts, horn arrangements." But he did create a role for me in his live band when I became a member of his band to be like the primary instrumental voice to him, because if during the main tours that I did with him in 1986, the Sign of the Times tour in 87, the Love Sexy tour in 88 and 89, if somebody in the audience really wasn't a fan of the saxophone, they were in for a long night.
Right.
Because literally there was a one tour in 86 that we did, which was known as the Parade Tour. It wasn't really, we really just did a bunch of gigs in the States and went to Europe and Japan. And on that show, Prince hardly played any guitar. Now here's somebody who's like an iconic lead
guitar player.
player.
Yes,
And on that
absolutely.
show, he hardly played any guitar. So if there was a solo, an instrumental solo, it was me. Wendy had a solo on a couple of things. Matt Fink might have had a solo here and there, but I
Right.
mean, it was like every other song. Here comes Eric Leeds. And, and it continued on that through the other tours. So it was like, once.
But you became such an important part of that ensemble, man. I mean, that particular point in his career, that 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years, yeah.
You were that
Yeah.
voice.
Well, I was.
And you became
yeah.
an iconic part of who he was, which allowed you to do different things. Now, look, we've already talked about the family. If you have or F Deluxe, if you missed that, go back. I'm not sure what episode it is because we only have about 20 more minutes left, and I want to move on to things such as playing with Prince
Yeah.
and beyond.
Yeah.
So describe you and I are friends for 35 years. We just go check out the episode. It'll talk about all the family stuff.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that here. Your time with Prince.
Here's what my point was, is that Prince said this once to somebody, and it wasn't me, strangely enough, but it said somebody in a rehearsal once, just to make it clear, and something that I certainly understood and felt from day one. Prince wasn't paying me to love his music. He was paying me to play it.
Ooh.
And that really came, and that was really for everybody. Now, there are musicians that played with Prince over the years that, like I said, thought they had died and gone to heaven because Prince was like John Blackwell, many of the guys from the early revolution or whatever who grew up in this context.
Absolutely.
So they had an emotional connection, not only with the music, but with the persona of Prince, that entity that I never had. And there were many musicians over the years that kind of came in from the same perspective. Other musicians that would say, wow, I've got an opportunity to play with Prince. It's not something that I ever really thought about.
Right.
But it's a wonderful opportunity to play with an absolute brilliant, remarkable musician that can be interesting not only for my resume, but can be interesting just for the idea of being able to play music with somebody of that caliber. So that's what I learned. Because basically, people say, well, this guy Prince is like, he's a fabulous, fabulous musician, but I'm not listening to his music in the early, originally and seeing. All I'm hearing is said, yeah, here's some, a song like Little Red Corvette is an absolutely masterful piece of pop songwriting and craftsmanship. And intellectually, I can recognize that.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean dictum. Excuse me. It doesn't mean, because that's not the kind of music I listen to.
Yeah.
It's just not, so I didn't have that emotional investment with that. So my point is that I did over that period of time, 3, 4, 5 year period of time, I did over 175 recording sessions with Prince.
How many saw the light of day?
Probably only about 10%.
Okay.
Maybe 15%. So much of it is just stuff that he was ongoing. Prince wasn't asking, and most of those sessions with my section mate Matt Bliston, a trumpet player, was known to the Prince fans as Atlanta Bliss. That was his moniker. Prince didn't ask us to come in. It was our job.
Right.
I need you guys in the studio at 8 o'clock tonight. Or we'd get a call from my brother or somebody else in the office. Prince needs you for a session. Or maybe we'd be in rehearsals all day, and Prince would say to us, I need you guys to hang out. We're going, I got to go in the studio right now. Can y'all come in with me in the studio? Now, sometimes, there were days like that I'd get a call maybe 11 at night, and somebody said, Prince in the studio needs you to come out. And it was like, I really do not feel like doing that.
Yep. Yep.
I'm watching a ball game, or I'm watching David Letterman, or I'm watching a movie, or I'm reading a book or something, or I'm listening to Miles or Coltrane. And I said,
my
listen,
time.
Yeah. It's like, but it was my job. I mean, now, it did get to the point that after the years, I had an answering machine by then. And it was like...
You're screening?
For days, Yeah. So it was like, sorry, Prince, I just wasn't home last night.
Can come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But But the point was, going into the studio, Prince isn't saying to us, hey, I got a new song. I'd love for you guys to put horns on it. Would you like to put some horns on it? I'd love for you to put some horns on it. You know,
Right.
that wasn't, it was like, here's a song, get in and get your horns out, let's go.
Right.
You know,
That was a gig.
yeah. And at the end of the day, now, Prince was obviously, it's his music, and he was somebody that was always going to be very enthusiastic about
Of
what it
course.
was that he was doing. And his enthusiasm can become infectious at times.
Of course.
But we realized that it was to our interest to want to like share, you know, whether it's not really what we felt at the time. And occasionally there might be a song and I'd listen to, well, this is a cool song, I really like this, you know.
Right.
But I had no expectation about it. And he wasn't asking us at the end of the session,
What'd
do you
you
like
think?
this? Yeah,
Yeah.
what'd you think?
No. It was
No.
like, see you tomorrow.
Yeah. All that was, you know, basically it was, all I was concerned about was he happy?
Right.
Because he's the one signing the check.
That's your relationship.
That's
It
the
was that.
relationship. Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the, you know, now what made it work for me is, you know, from a standpoint of being musically fulfilled or satisfied or interested was the fact that it's still the process was interesting. Just
Right.
as a musician,
Right.
to be able to be a part of his musical process, whatever that was, could be very, very interesting. And the fact that he was the one determining the value of what we did.
Oh, yeah.
Was
And he
certain-
did value it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
question.
And just from now, first of all, you want your boss to be happy with
Of
what you're doing.
course.
You want your boss to, because the only person that had the right to determine the value of anyone who played whatever, anybody in his bands, is him.
Very true.
When I was standing on stage with him on gigs playing in front of 10, 12, 15,000 people, that wasn't my audience.
Yep.
I was on stage every night. I had an audience of one, and that was Prince.
Right.
That was the only person that I was playing for.
Right.
You know, because at the end of the day, to whatever extent that anybody in the audience may think of any value, you know, oh boy, I like that saxophone solo you played on that. That's fine. But the only reason you get to hear that or even have an opinion is because Prince allowed you to hear it.
Did you enjoy your time with Prince?
Basically, yes. Now, like anything else, or like a lot of things, there is a scale if you're going to look at the balance of things. Knowing going into it that there are always going to be aspects of particularly any gig, but particularly somebody that, like Prince, and the specifics of what the showbiz aspects of it,
Right.
to me was either an annoyance or an absurdity. But I understood, you know, the fact of some of the outfits that I had to wear on stage and some of the...
Do we have pictures?
Yeah. I hated doing videos.
Did you?
Yes. Mainly because I don't like the hours, because you had to be up early in the morning.
I can attest to that,
Yeah.
by the way.
But the whole process of that, I couldn't stand. But it's part of the gig. From the musical standpoint of, like I say, being the most important thing, you know, obviously the fact that he was giving me such an opportunity to play, even to the degree of you know, what the music entailed, meant something to me. Of course it did. Aside from just my ego, but just the fact that, you know, if all I'm going to be doing for 2 hours is just playing little parts that really don't challenge you from a standpoint of playing the instrument, that's going to get boring,
Right.
you know. For the first year and a half, like I said, being part of his process was interesting because it was still figuring out how he works
Right.
and the limits and extent to which, you know, the different options. After the first year and a half, it started, the gig and my role in it started to become pretty defined. So basically by then I said, okay, I know how this works. I know how to do this. And then it starts to become just business as usual. So it then starts to become a little bit more boring.
Except for the fact that he allowed you you did Madhouse, which was really his project.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend much time on that.
Yeah.
But he allowed you and gave you the freedom to do 2 records for Paisley, right?
Yeah.
There's some perks here.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When I came up to Minneapolis the very first time in July of '84, like I said, no expectations, no illusions about what this was going to be, about whether it's something I was really going to be wanting to be a part of, more importantly, what his decisions would be. Somewhere in the back of my mind, way back in fantasy land, is, okay, what is the best case scenario that could come out of me being involved with somebody who isn't necessarily something that at that point it was just the family. Because, beyond that, there was, never occurred to me there was any expectation or illusion that I'd ever become a part of his band.
Of course.
So it's like, I'm going to be a part of a group that might have a hit record. What happened if this, what would happen if this record actually became a hit?
Right.
And went on to do several albums, over a period of time. And all of a sudden, I'm just waiting. This is fantasy land. I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this is the first opportunity on a bigger stage, besides just being a member even of a very popular but local bar band. Here is now maybe an opportunity that down the line I can leverage. If I can get some kind of a positive reputation and a resume, that maybe the circumstance comes a few years from now or whatever, I can then say to somebody, this is what I want to do or what I can do.
Yeah.
Will somebody listen to that and say, I'm hearing what you're doing in family or whatever it is, maybe I'll give you an opportunity. Now, that's fantasy land.
Right.
Because this was in 1984. By 1989, that was a reality.
Right.
But it came from Prince, which,
Right.
And, of course, what made it really work was not only just the basic compliment of a musician of his caliber telling me that he finds value in what I want to do on my own, but he also had the means to make it happen because he had a record company.
Sure did.
So,
and you got to play with the people that you loved.
Well,
and the people you wanted to play with.
Because of Prince and Prince's productions, I ended up doing something ostensibly for Miles Davis that was never released.
Oh.
But I got the opportunity to meet Miles Davis, and actually he sat in with us on a gig once, on the New Year's Eve gig.
Check YouTube.
Yeah, well, all the Prince fans know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you had dinner with him.
I had dinner with him. I'm on a song that Prince produced for Patti LaBelle. I'm in stuff that he produced for Mavis Staples. I'm on something that he produced for James Brown and Aretha Franklin. I'm on a song that we did for Kid Creole.
Wow.
And at the same time that I was becoming an artist on Paisley Park Records, George Clinton was an artist on Paisley Park Records.
Right. Oh.
And he did 2 albums for Paisley Park. The first one was called Cinderella Theory. The second one was called Smell My Finger.
Of course.
On Cinderella Theory, there are only 2 songs on that album that have horns. And they're my horns, me and Bliston, and I did the horn arrangements for him.
How great is that?
Me and Bliston flew to Detroit to spend an evening with George. Now, here's really what it comes full circle. When I saw my name on that album, tenor saxophone, Eric Leeds, trumpet, Lana Bliss, Matt Bliston, horn arrangements by Eric Leeds on a George Clinton album, that meant more to me than seeing my name on any Prince record. I'm sorry, because George Clinton was one of my biggest heroes.
Of course.
Now, the association became through Prince.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I ended up doing some of the horn stuff on the next album also for George. So.
Well, let's fast forward because this is an hour podcast. This could be a 5-hour podcast.
Right. Well.
But let's talk a little bit about your and my relationship and more specifically LP music. LP music is a record that Eric and I made 3 years ago. We started it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Conceptually, we went to see your good buddy Christian McBride, and he was doing a jam session, basically an impromptu conversational.
Yeah, because
improvisational.
Christian is most known for just a straight up hardcore jazz upright bass player. Probably has been the premier bass player in modern jazz for like 25 years now.
Right.
But Christian is a James Brown fanatic.
Yeah.
And actually worked with James, did some things with James.
No kidding.
Oh, yes, yeah. Knew James very well. So anyway, so he's into funk, all kinds of funk, because one of his closest friends was Questlove.
That's right. They went to school together.
They went to school together.
And Joey DeFrancesco, I might tell you.
Yeah.
This is all in Philly.
Yeah, exactly.
And Boys to Men. Is that right?
All those, yeah.
All
So
those
anyway,
great.
Christian, from time to time does like a more R&B funk kind of thing. So this is the thing that you're talking to,
Yes.
where he came in and he had Patrice Rushen on keyboards.
Yes, he did. And a DJ.
And a DJ. Yeah. So, but it was very impromptu.
Yeah.
And it was cool. He was playing Fender bass.
He was.
And it was great. But I just remember we're sitting there, we're digging it, and you say to me,
We can do this stuff.
yeah, we should
do this.
We
We should do this.
We should do this.
And LP Music was born.
There we go.
And we started right there. And
Yeah.
tell these guys a little bit about the record and the process of making it and some of the highlights
the basic idea
where we're
was
at.
that we did a crowdfund for it, if you recall.
Right.
Because basically, we're independent. There's no label coming to us, and we said, how do we finance doing something that's credible? That gives us the resources to actually spend the time and energy and
pay people.
And pay people.
Right.
And yeah. And so we came up with the idea, crowdfunding.
Right.
Why not? So we did, and we are extraordinarily thankful and grateful to virtually well over 400 people that
pledged.
Yep. And in different levels, different tiers, depending. There were some people that gave us a whole lot of money that are listed as associate and executive producers.
Right. We had different levels.
Yeah. At the crowdfunding board. So this enabled us to spend the time and, like you say, pay the level of the musicians to perform on this. It is,
But it only came out to those supporters.
Yeah,
We've
initially.
never released this to the general public before, and that's what's.
So finally.
And when is this coming out, Eric?
Well, we are. What do we say? Next December 3rd.
I'm not sure when this is airing, but December 3rd, it's coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
And it you will find. We have we should give them our rundown of our websites first of all.
By all means.
LP Music, our website for LP Music is leedspetersonmusic.com.
That's correct.
The reason we couldn't use LP Music is because
Latin
LP is
percussion.
Latin percussion.
Yeah, we didn't want to get sued.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we have leedspetersonmusic.com is the primary. There it is. They're calling us now.
That's leedspetersonmusicbading.com.
You have a website, of course.
PaulPeterson.com. You have a website.
EricLeeds.com. We also have fdeluxe.com.
It's going to be everywhere.
The links, because basically the links are going to take you to eBay.
Why eBay?
It's not an auction.
No.
But we're actually doing eBay because it is a very easy and efficient way for us to distribute and get the CD to you for those of you.
So there's going to be autographed and non-autographed,
yes,
right?
There are going to be two separate listings on eBay. One for just a standard CD, and if you wish to have us autograph it, then there'll be a separate listing for that.
Right.
All the links will, like I say, be up on our websites.
And we'll
but
put
you also can go to eBay and just type in
Leeds Peterson.
Leeds Peterson, and it'll get you here.
And we'll put it on Music on the Run websites as well. We'll make sure that that we advertise it there.
But the music,
tell them a little bit about the music and who's on it.
Well, the music is instrumental music primarily. This is why it's called No Words, among other reasons. Paul and I just coming to understand. I have to tell you, for all the years that I've been making music like this, to have all of a sudden, because I've known Paul for all these years, but when I first knew him, he was a snotty-nosed 19-year-old kid who was going to be a pop star.
Oh boy, was I ever!
And as we started working on our F Deluxe album, 10 years ago now, the album that's Gaslight, I'm starting to really actually work with Paul in a manner that I'd never really had the opportunity to before. And after that, realizing that you have, from a production standpoint, but also just from a musical standpoint, a vocabulary that even though you have no references to, like I do, having grown up with this nature of this music, as you said, let's just see what happens. And,
no harm in that.
Yeah, and it worked. And like I say, having somebody that can take ideas that I have and then flesh them out in such a different manner than what I would do if just left to my own devices, but in a way that just gives me the opportunity to have to do different things that are within my realm of experience, but not specifically what I would do if it was just up to my own. And that makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, it made you stretch, and you made me stretch.
Absolutely. Yeah, because
that's what a good partnership does in the studio.
Yeah, because there's that old thing that the result is greater than the sum of its parts. Mm-hmm. Is that old phrase?
Yes.
Much of the music Paul and I just crafted as we're going on in real time. Now, the only thing else I got to add about Paul is that he is also a tremendous music producer, and your ability to get around Pro Tools as well as you did makes things go so fast because we can realize the ideas almost immediately.
That is a luxury.
That is,
That's one of the things I love about modern technology.
But just the fact that the way you play guitar, the way you play drums, the way you play keyboards and bass, that so many things that I could come up with, which are, I come up like, I've got an idea for a bass or something I hear in guitar. Well, I can't do that, but you can. Mm-hmm. And immediately you can give me an idea. And if you're saying, I hear what you know on guitar, if this is something you feel is not right in your wheelhouse, we know who to get.
Right. And who's on the record?
Well,
give me some other guests that we have on here.
Mike Stern on guitar. Mike Stern is in jazz and jazz funk fusion, probably one of the premier eminent guitar players for 40 years now.
Oh, yeah.
I first learned of Mike Stern because he was playing with Miles Davis for years back in the early 80s. You've known him for a lot of other projects over the years.
Sure am.
Fortunately, he was playing in town
at the Dakota.
With
Brecker,
Randy Brecker.
And I called Randy Brecker and I went, "Hey, Randy, do you have Mike Stern's number? I want him to play in my record." And I felt like such a schmuck.
Yeah, because we weren't asking Randy because we already Brian Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't ask him to play on it, but that's how we got. I literally went down and picked him up in the car.
Yeah, Mike came in the studio. Mike was just tremendous. He was just a sweetheart of a guy.
Absolutely.
And just, one of these guys, we've had a lot of situations where you get somebody that you want and they might be great musicians.
Yeah.
But it's not like even that I have the illusion that a great musician necessarily is just going to come in and really dig what we're doing because they've heard it all before.
Right.
But Mike came in and just immediately just grabbed the
hold of it. He knew what to do, man. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, I got this."
Yeah. And when you have that situation, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, he was great. Who else is on the record?
A very dear friend of mine, trumpet player, who I've known for a long time, who was one of the preeminent jazz trumpet players, named Brian Lynch. I knew him when he played with Eddie Palmieri and one of my other heroes. But he's got, in fact, Brian has a new album I have to go buy now. And I've worked with Brian before. And I knew that the two songs that he was on, he was just going to kill.
Right.
And this situation, we were able to send him the files, knowing exactly what he sent back was just like
perfect.
Wow, perfect.
Yep.
We've got your brother. We've got your brother,
my brother Ricky, whom I don't think I've ever done a project without.
I have done every album that I have done, even all the several that I've done are my only. The only musician other than me that's on all my records is Ricky.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why he's the #1 keyboard player on the planet.
As another benefit of working with Paul, because I can, if worse comes to worse, I can use Paul to get to Ricky.
That's true, and he has, and still does. Thank you very much.
Ricky's just tremendous on it.
Yeah, he is.
We have Questlove. Our dear friend Questlove, who has been a huge supporter.
He really has, man. He's been so good
to
us and been one of the reasons why he got F Deluxe to play at his Grammy party and kind of got the ball rolling.
And then we got him to play on the gig with us unannounced as an added attraction when we did a gig opening up for D'Angelo.
With LP. There
with
was
LP.
2 drummers in LP, Pitar and Questlove.
Questlove.
At First Avenue.
At First
Sold
Avenue.
out. The place was
Yeah.
packed. And
Yeah.
they loved
It's
it.
tremendous. So those are the the guest stars. The band that we have been using at the time, still guys that are, we have a cast of characters. Stokely Williams, if you don't know Stokely Williams, you certainly know him from Mint Condition, of course,
Yeah.
his own records. But Stokely Williams is also an absolute brilliant drummer.
Boy, is he ever.
I had the opportunity to play in a Latin jazz band for almost 10 years with
Astaire, yeah.
the Astaire Godinez.
Yeah.
Stokely is not on this record, but Stokely is on what we have as a bonus
We do.
that is going to be available through a different.
We'll see how we're going to get that to you, but
Yeah, we'll
that's a
figure it out.
special deal.
But
We don't even know what we're
Stokely
doing.
is part of our family of
He sure is.
the drummer that we has been performing with us is a young kid who came to Minneapolis from Serbia, of all places.
Right.
He's kind of like a disciple of Michael Bland, as much as others, and his name is Petar Janic.
And he plays with Corey Wong now, and he's like,
Right. Yeah.
Corey Wong is blown up.
Blown up,
I've
yeah.
known Corey for a long time, and
Yeah.
taken Petar and the Hornheads and so many people
Right.
along with them on the ride. But
Yeah.
so that's what
Petar is on drums.
He's on drums.
You're on bass, guitar, keyboards,
Whatnot,
and everything
yeah.
else. We have a wonderful percussionist named Shai Hayo.
Yep, he played great on the record.
Playing congas, timbales, hand percussion, all of those things.
Brian Z.
Brian Zemniak, we call him Brian Z, who has been one of our keyboard players.
Yep, plays with us with F Deluxe as well. Tell him who the other
And
guy.
then also the other piano soloist on the album was a dear friend of mine, in fact, named Peter Shimke, who tragically passed away several years ago. Miss him dearly. He was very close. In fact, he was the piano player in the band with Astaire that I played with Stokely for so many years.
Right.
And this might be one of the last recordings that Peter might have been on.
I think you're right.
It could have been. And he was, he was a core member of LP Music for all the gigs that we had been doing. And his spirit is on. His spirit is with us. I mean, he's
Big time.
Yeah, big time. So that's basically the cast of characters.
So are you ever going to do another gig?
Well,
I just want to know if I'm working or not.
yeah, we'll get around to him.
You think so?
We'll get out there.
So that's the world according to Eric Leeds in an hour and 15 minutes or less. We could talk so much more, man, but I got to just say thank you. I mean, you're one of my dearest buddies on the planet, and your family.
For the point for me more than anything else is for aspiring musicians, you're always going to find people that become friends of yours, and they're like a lot of musicians have guys that I grew up with, your musical buddies. But when you find somebody that has this ability that you can sit and we're old enough now that we don't have time to. I mean, we've got egos, we certainly got egos, but it's like. If I'm bringing an idea, Paul has a song, and I'll come to Paul and I said, well, I want to add something to your song. And Paul says, so he ain't adding nothing to my song. It ain't, it's like,
Right.
okay, what do you got?
Right. You
And if
better
it's
bring
cool-
it.
Yeah, it's cool. But at the end of the day, if Paul says, no, I'm not hearing that. It's okay. That I don't have time. We don't have time to waste. What do you mean you ain't hearing that? That's the hippest shit in the world.
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah. It's like, okay, what are you hearing? Let's move on, and vice versa.
Right. We'll
And
save it for another groove. Or
Exactly.
something.
I'll tell you, you don't like that, I'll put on my own record.
That's exactly right.
That's the whole thing.
And that is the humor that
But
we
when
use.
you, at the end of the day, when you're extending things, because there are certain things on some of the material on that I don't think you and me know what you did or what I did. At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yep.
And it's just extending the trip. And like Paul said, I can from this music be able to have musical experiences that I'm not going to have if I'm just left to my own devices, and vice versa. If you find somebody like that you can have that kind of a musical rapport, hold on to that. There's nothing more valuable to being a musician than that.
And you might as well be a Peterson at this point. We've adopted you. Dude, you're one of my closest friends. I love you, man. And well, my life is so much better because not only musically, but friendship-wise, because
Likewise,
you're in it. So,
absolutely.
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eric frickin' Leeds.
Paul Peterson.
Here. Thanks. That's episode 52. We will see you for episode 53, season 3. We're out. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Music on the Run was hosted by yours truly, St. Paul Peterson. Edited and produced by my buddy Davide Raso. Video editing by Tanner Montague. And a very special thanks to the people who financially support this podcast. And remember, it's only a gig.